So these are more examples having to do with amplitude and period with sine and cosine. So in my lesson video, I show you more detail on period and amplitude and I really break it down. In this video, I'm just going to straight up do extra examples to go with that lesson video. So if you are looking for a more thorough breakdown of how period and amplitude work and all the things that go into that, I recommend you check out the lesson video first. This is just a good add-on to that. So I'm going to go through these three examples so you can fast forward if there's one that you want to see in particular. And I normally prepare my work ahead of time, but in this example video, you're just going to see me and the process I go through to graph everything. So I've prepared nothing in advance. I'm just going to do it all right here on the video. Okay, so I'm going to start with y equals negative 1/2 sine x. So the first thing that I want to do is I just want to identify what's the period and what's the amplitude. So the amplitude is the easiest one to pick out, right? So it's just the number in front of sine. And then the period in this case is pretty simple. Normally you would do 2 pi divided by b. So in this case, this would just be 2 pi divided by 1. So it's just 2 pi. Now, the thing I really care about with period is that it tells me kind of the steps to take when I'm setting up my table. So in this case, if I divide 2 pi divided by 4, the steps that I want to take are going to be pi over 2 steps. And then where I want to start in this case will be at 0. So that's just going to be the easiest place to start. Now, if I plug in 0, I know that I'm going to get 0 out. So I can just go ahead and set that up. And now I can start making my steps. So these are going to be steps that are pi over 2 steps in the table. So this will be pi over 2. If I add pi over 2 to that, I get pi. If I add pi over 2 to that, I get 3 pi over 2, and then 2 pi, and then I always just like to have one extra point just to check everything. So this will be 5 pi over 2. Okay, so now I've got all of my x values. And this is really like the big thing that you need, because once you get this, then the rest of this just comes down to calculation and plotting points. So let's take this and let's go ahead and let's make some extra room here. So I just want to take a moment now to figure out what my y coordinates are going to be. This shouldn't take me too long. So if I plug in, let's say pi over 2, so I know that pi over 2 is just equal to 1. So if I multiply negative 1/2 by this becomes negative 1/2. So this is how the amplitude impacts things, right? So when you have your standard table of sines and cosines, it's 1, 0, negative 1. But now with this amplitude, it's going to impact kind of those heights. So, okay, I've got this one. And then I've got negative 1/2 sine of pi. So that's just going to be equal to 0. And then negative 1/2 sine of 3 pi over 2. This will end up becoming negative 1/2 times negative 1. So this will equal positive 1/2. And then at 2 pi, I have 0. And then at sine of 5 pi over 2. So it's going to end up going back through this type of calculation again. Same results here. So I can see that this is going to equal negative 1/2. So, okay. So I can see that I have fulfilled kind of that period, right, of going from 0 to 2 pi. I can see the kind of the interval starting itself over again at this 0 and the pattern repeating. So let's take those points now and let's graph them. So now that I've got my points, I want to just go ahead and set up my axes. So I will make this point here, I will make this 1/2, and I'll make this negative 1/2. And then I'll just go in pi over 2 intervals on my graph, like so. So this will be negative pi over 2, so this will be the negative version of that. Okay, so now we just start plotting points. So I've got 0, 0 right there. Pi over 2, negative pi over 2 right there, pi 0. And then we come up here, and then we come down here. Okay, and I didn't have enough room for this last one, but that's okay. I really just use this as a check for myself. So now I can connect. Okay, and so this is one interval. So the directions were to go over 2 period intervals. So now what I want to do is I just want to continue the pattern of the points, I guess. So to do that, let's see, I'll come up here, and then I come down, come here, and come here. So that's just me continuing out the pattern of the points. And so there you go. So now you've got 2 period intervals, so we're good to go. Okay, so up next we've got 3 cosine 2x. So of course I want to start at 0 and at 0. So remember, when I plug 0 in, now I have to multiply that by the 3 here. So this will actually be 0, 3. So I always like to just start with that point because it's easy. The period in this case will be found by taking 2 pi divided by 2. So the period in this case will be pi. And then my amplitude in this case is equal to 3. Now the steps that I want to take, remember I divide this by 4, so I want to take pi over 4 steps. So now I'm going to use this to help me set up my table. So I start at 0, then I go to pi over 4, next one will be pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and then pi, and then we can continue on, I guess, if we want to go to 5 pi over 4. Okay, and so now it's just a matter of calculating my points. So, okay, let's clear some space. And now let's just take the time to check out what our points come out to. So 3 cosine of 2 times pi over 4, so plugging in that first point, this will come out to 3 cosine of pi over 2. Cosine of pi over 2 is just equal to, 0, so this equals 0. And then 3 cosine 2 times pi over 2, this will equal 3 times cosine of pi. So that'll be 3 times -1, so this will equal -3 in the table. And then 3 cosine 2 times 3 pi over 4 will be 3 cosine of 3 pi over 2, so that's just going to equal 0 again. And then 3 cosine of 2 pi, that's going to be just 3 times 1, so this is just going to be 3. And then I know that at 5 pi over 4, that's going to repeat this pattern up here. If I just kind of think about it for a second, it's going to repeat that pattern here, so this will go back to 0, and so the period starts over again. Okay, so now we can go ahead and make our graph. Okay, so in this case, so I'll make 3 tick marks for my y's, and then for my scale in this case, I'll go pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, pi, and this will be the negative direction. Okay, and now I just plot points. So I've got 0, 3, and then I've got pi over 4, 0, pi over 2, -3, 3 pi over 4, 0, and then I come back up here. So let's see. Then I get the connection. There's the first part of my wave, and then I need to do this over a 2-period interval, so I can just continue the pattern of my points going this way. And now I've graphed over a 2-period interval. So there you go. Okay, one more example. So negative sine pi x. So again, I'll just start by plugging in 0. If I plug in 0, I get 0. Let's think about period and amplitude. So for amplitude, so it's always, the amplitude is found by taking the absolute value of the number in front. So this will just be 1. And then my period will be 2 pi divided by pi. So this is going to be equal to 2. So in this case, my steps are going to be in 1/2 steps or 1/2 measure or whatever, however you want to think of that. Okay, so at least that makes filling the table in pretty easy. So this will be 1/2, 1, 3.5, 2, and I'm not even going to do the last point in this case. Okay, so now I can just start plugging stuff in. So let's make some space. All right, so let's see how this works out. So negative sine pi times 1/2, this becomes negative sine pi over 2. So sine of pi over 2 is 1, but then I've got the negative, so this will be -1. And then let's see, negative sine of pi would be the next entry really, so that's just going to be 0. Then negative sine of, we'll call this 3 pi over 2, so I'm plugging 3 pi into this to get negative sine 3 pi over 2. So this ends up becoming -1, so that becomes positive. And then at negative sine of 2 pi, that'll just be 0 again. So I've got all my points. And so now I can set up my axes. So here's 1 and -1. And then let's make this 1/2, 1, 3/2, and 2. We'll make this -1/2. And now I plot my points. So I've got 0, 0, 1/2, -1, 1, 0, 3.5, 1, 2, 0. So I get this shape here. And let's see, actually, I'm gonna go like this. My wave was a little messed up. So there's one interval. So now I've got to keep going with this. So I just kind of continue the pattern. And there we go, 2-period interval, boom. All right, and so those are the examples that I wanted to show you. So if you found that helpful, consider liking this video, leaving me a comment, sharing with your friends, subscribing to the channel. I'm definitely trying to grow the channel, so every time you like or subscribe, that helps me out a lot. And otherwise, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time.